You know, I've done a lot of videos on ball position, how ball position is an upper body thing, and it's not that I'm dismissive to what's going on with the lower body. It's just really I pay attention to what's going on with the feet more from a standpoint of the width of the stance. And I want to talk to you about width of stance because I think it's a really important thing for you to appreciate as a guideline for, hey, what should I look like when I have this club or this club or this club? So I'm going to start with 9 irons, and I've got a bunch of clubs that are laid out here all the way up to the driver. And I'll give you an idea of how I look at the width of stance and why, okay? So first thing you need to understand is the length of a 9 iron versus the length of a driver. In my particular situation, it is quite a bit of a difference. You can see right there, it's almost a full grip difference in length. Now, that has it creates a situation, and it has a real importance in why you put your feet where you put your feet, okay? So let me put the driver back here. So rule of thumb is when I have shorter clubs, I'm going to have to bend over more to get to the golf ball, okay? So with a 9 iron, I'm going to set up here. That's a great shot. And you can see I'm bent over quite a bit. I don't know exactly what the angle of my back is at, but let's just say that it's about 50 degrees, okay? So when I get in here, the more bend I have, the more I lock my hips down. And when I lock my hips down, I reduce the amount of shoulder turn that I can have. Well, by getting your feet a little closer, you now open up the opportunity for the hips to rotate, and as a result of the hip rotation, the shoulders will have some freedom. So when I get set with a 9 iron, my stance is, it feels roughly the width of my shoulders. That's what I kind of feel, okay? And so what I like to do is, I'm going to take a golf ball in here, and I'm going to put it right in the middle of my shoe on the left, the middle of my shoe on the right. Now, this right here, this is a perfect 9 iron width of stance. And that would be the same for a sand wedge, all sand wedges, lob wedges, wedges, whatever, 9 iron, 8 iron. When I get to the 7 iron, now things change a little bit. So what I have is I have 9 iron, 7 iron, 5 iron, 3 wood, and driver. So when I get to the 7 iron now, this club here is about 1 inch longer than the 9 iron. The clubs will vary in length about 1/2 inch. So for every other club, you're just 1 inch longer. So when I get to the 7 iron, the instinct that you have is, rightly so, you're going to back away from the ball a little bit. So if we're down the line, my 9 iron, I was here. My 7 iron, I'm going to be back just a little bit. But what also happens is that my feet get a little bit wider. And what I end up doing, you can see that my toe is no longer at that ball. It's roughly a ball behind. So what I do is I take that and I put that in there. Now, 7 iron ball position is, as we've talked about before, just in front of middle, so right about there, okay? And I'm keeping my toes pretty square for this demonstration, just so that you understand. But what ends up happening is, as the club gets longer, you're going to get a little bit farther from the ball, which you need to understand. But also, too, the width of your stance is going to increase. So when I go from any of my wedges and 9 iron, 8 iron, 7 iron, I get another ball, okay? Now, when I go to the 5 iron, I'm going to go yet one more. So now I go here. This is always going to be right where that lead one is, but now you can see that when I get back to here, now I'm right where I want. And again, I'm a little bit farther away. This club is now 2 inches longer than my 9 iron. And what you can see, very, very solid strike and a pretty straight shot. I'm at the right distance to the ball as I've gotten farther away, and it allows me to make a little bit of a freer swing, because when I start to get a little farther and I get a little longer club, now my spine changes in its address. So my 9 iron might have been like this, and my 5 iron I'm just a little bit taller. Not a tremendous amount, but enough to make a difference in the freedom of my hips to make the rotation. So as I start to get a little taller, my hips get a little bit freer. I now can get a little bit wider, because what happens when you widen a stance is that locks hips down. So a really wide stance locks your hips, and bent over a lot locks your hips. So what you want is you want to be able to offset when something is happening. 9 iron, I'm standing closer, so I want my feet to be closer so I have some hip mobility. 5 iron, my feet are a little bit wider, so now that's going to lock it down, but I'm standing a little taller, and that's going to give me some mobility, right? So as I start to get farther and I get taller, I can go wider. As you get a longer club, you're going to go wider. Now we go 3 iron. Now this is a fun one, because the 3 iron, I am farther away from it. However, I'm not changing the width of my stance, believe it or not. My ball position will get a little bit more forward, but I'm not changing the width of my stance. So my 3 iron, 4 iron, 5 iron, they're the same width of stance, but ball position moves just a little bit forward for me. Okay? 2 more to go. 3 wood. Now 3 wood, I'm a little bit farther forward, but it's a lot longer club. I mean, here's the 3 iron that I just had. So go ahead. Yeah, there you go. So there's the 3 iron. I'm almost like a fist more. That's probably 4 or 5 inches, something like that, longer. So I need more width of the stance. So I'm going to bring in another golf ball. So now I'm back here like that. And now this toe right to that, this toe right to that. That's perfect. And now I'm a little farther from the ball, so go down the line there. And you can see when I'm a little farther from the ball, I'm also a little bit taller. So 9 iron, I was down here like this. Now 3 wood, I'm up here like this. And you'll feel the balance. You'll feel it in your feet. You'll feel it in your address. You'll feel it in your mobility. If you get to where you can't make a full swing at that point, you probably are bent over too much, or most probably you've got your width of stance is too great. And when that width of stance gets too great, you make some compensations, maybe hang on that lead leg, whatever. So now finally it brings us to the driver, okay? Now I'm not going to tee this up for you. The driver's going to be up here. Width of stance is right there. And what you can see is comfort for me is yet one more golf ball. So bring that in there. And now that toe is pointing to there. And this is just for a standard driver. This is not, I'm going to try to hit it high, or I'm going to try to hit it low, do whatever. These are just standard positions, okay? So right here, now I'm in a good position. Go down the line there, Gibbsy. And what you can see is that the balance is good. So setup is good, everything is good. Now go back to the face on, because the other thing that happens as you start getting longer clubs is you also start getting a little bit more tilt in the shoulders. So the 9 iron, because you're bent over a little bit more, your shoulders are a little bit more level. When you start to get with the driver, now they get tilted this way. And as your spine starts to tilt like this, you're throwing a little bit of upper body weight back. And so what will happen over time too is that you're just going to get a little nudge in those hips forward as the upper body has a little bit of a backward move, okay? That's just an add-on. It doesn't really necessarily talk about width of stance, but it is a factor in it. So when I get my driver and I'm in this position right here, now all of a sudden I look at that, and what you can see is that I've got basically 5 golf ball positions. So I'm sand wedged to about 9 iron, 8 iron to here, 7 and 6 are here, 5, 4, 3, maybe a hybrid if you have is to there. All my fairway woods are here, and my driver is right there. And as you pay attention to the width of your stance, what you're going to start to get is consistency with ball position. You'll get consistency with your motion. You'll get consistency with the completeness of the backswing and the transition and the downswing. It doesn't sound like it has a huge effect on your golf swing, but I can just tell you that the width of your stance has an enormous effect on what you do with your hip rotation or not, what you do with your hip slide in the downswing or rotation in the downswing, how you create weight transfer in your backswing? Are you tilting or leaning onto that lead leg, or are you able to rotate into that trail leg? And the ball position has an enormous effect on it, but the width of the stance has a big effect as well, okay? So you have to understand, shorter clubs, narrower stance; longer clubs, wider stance; shorter clubs closer to the ball; longer clubs farther from the ball, okay? Shorter clubs narrow, longer clubs wide; shorter clubs close, longer clubs farther from it. Pay attention to the width of your stance. Pay attention to where your feet are in your golf swing, and you're going to go a long way to having and creating a very consistent motion.
To improve all parts of your game, subscribe to my channel and click the link below.